What is happening, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Nutrition Podcast. We're on episode number 8, so the double figures is fast approaching. Now, for anyone that is watching on video, I've got Jurgen Klopp to one side of me and I've got the Liverpool badge to the other. So no prizes for guessing where this is coming from. Let's get into it. Today, we are talking about why exercise is not actually a good way to lose fat. Now, don't get me wrong, exercise has so many benefits across various domains of physical and mental health, but purely in terms of calories and fat loss, it's actually surprisingly ineffective. So let's dive into that. Now, the first reason is that exercise is actually only a tiny percentage of your day, a tiny fraction of your day. If we say that you're awake for 16 hours a day, roughly, and even if you're to train for an hour every single day, which I don't think most of us are, that is still only a 16th of your week. And as a percentage, well, I'm not even going to pretend to do the maths, but it's not a lot, is it? And then secondly, following on from this, the calorie output from a typical gym session might be around about the 200 to 300 calorie mark. To put that in perspective with food, that could be like a large potato, a chocolate bar, or just a couple of bananas. So as you can see, it actually isn't a huge impact in the grand scheme of things. Then if we move on to the psychological component, so using exercise to burn calories is what we call an avoidance goal, because you're trying to avoid that feeling or emotion of feeling fat. You're trying to get away from an emotional and mental state. So you're using it almost as like a punishment. And the research is pretty clear that avoidance goals are much less conducive to long-term consistency and appearance than what we call approach goals. So approach goals are when you're trying to achieve something positive. So that might be trying to get fitter, trying to get stronger, having fun. And like I say, approach goals are much better for long-term adherence. And I've got a great example of this. So one of my clients was going to the gym, but she really didn't enjoy it. It was a bit of a punishment, a bit of a chore. And that meant her consistency was actually really, really low. So what we did might surprise you, and I actually told her to cancel her gym membership, not only because of the fact she was just donating a gym 20 quid a month for no reason, but also because we swapped to something that more aligned with her goals and was something she actually wanted to aspire towards. So she used to really enjoy running as a kid. She enjoyed the feeling it gave her, the freedom. And also we combined it with the fact that one of her kids was into running. So they could do it as like a family activity that she really, really enjoyed. And as you can see, the contrast between going to the gym as like a punishment compared to running with a kid to have fun and feel fit is just a much better outlook and is supported by the research. So in summary, whilst exercise has so many benefits, purely from that fat loss and calorie perspective, it isn't as impactful as you might think. So I'd encourage you to find a form of exercise you enjoy and then might do somewhat consistently, because this is going to have far more benefits than some like optimal calorie workout that you're just never going to do. So I don't want to just leave you with a load of things that don't work. I actually want this to be a bit of a positive thing that can give you some guidance and strategy going forward. So how can you lose fat? Well, as a certain James Smith has really popularized, fat loss really does come down to a calorie effing deficit. I'm saying effing because I want to make this podcast PG and see if it hits a wider audience. Now, in terms of calorie deficit, this is a term for when your calorie output is greater than your calorie input. And our calorie output is things like exercise, just the stuff you use to live and digest your food, and then your daily day-to-day activity. Made a meal of that, anyway. And then your inputs are your calories consumed within your food and your drink. And I guess the two biggest levers that we can pull here are, first of all, your food intake. I believe this is probably the highest return on investment strategy because it can swing so far either way. Like a day where you eat a huge amount of calories, say if you're, out for food a few times, have a few drinks, your calorie intake is going to be so much higher than days where you've eaten a much more conservative diet. So if you are looking to lose fat, I would really encourage you to adapt and manage your calorie intake. Now, there's so many different ways we can achieve this. As I'm sure you're aware, there's so many different diets and all of them do have successful case studies. They're going to work for some people, but not for others. So it really is about finding something that works for you, suits your food preferences, suits your lifestyle. But there are a few principles we really want to stick to here. So the first one is that you want to have mainly a whole food diet. That doesn't mean it has to be exclusively whole food, but probably just moving more towards a whole food based diet is going to benefit most people. We also want to ensure that we're having plenty of protein. Now, this is because protein is really satiating, as in it helps to fill you up. The next thing is that we want plenty of fruit and veg. So fruit and veg are very high in fiber and they provide us plenty of nutrients. So this is our vitamins and minerals. And then we also want to manage our intake of our very calorie dense foods. So this is things like our chocolate, sweets, crisps, alcohol, things like that. And like I said, I really want to reiterate that doesn't mean we can't have any of these things, but we just want to manage the frequency and quantity of them. So in summary of that, calories are the thing that drives fat loss. But before I get attacked online, I want to emphasize that that doesn't mean that calories are the only thing that matters. So your food quality does also matter. So this is the specific foods, their nutrient density, the kind of vitamins and minerals they have. This also is really important in terms of your health and also how you feel, which I guess then indirectly affects fat loss in the sense that if you feel good, you're more likely to be more active and be in a better mental state to pick more health conducive foods. So the final area that I really wanted to talk about in terms of fat loss is your non-exercise activity. Now you might have seen this as NEAT, N-E-A-T, and that stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is a very pretentious way of just saying your daily activity outside of exercise. Now I want to give you a couple of examples as to how this can vary so greatly between people. So let's take an office worker. They get up in the morning, drive to work, sit at their desk all day, drive home, and then sit and watch TV all night. Clearly, their calorie expenditure for the day is going to be very, very low. And if we compare this to like a construction worker, someone who's on their feet all day, moving around, doing physically exertional tasks, really saying things quite weird today, aren't I? Strange. Don't know what's on my mind. But yeah, these two people are a great example of this calorie swing that you could have between two different individuals. And I think it's a great example of how it is so adaptable. So it is an area where we can get a lot of bang for our buck. So if you are someone who's trying to lose fat, I would really encourage you to look at your daily activity. If we circle it back to the very first point about how many hours of the day exercise is, if we look at our non-exercise activity, that's probably the other 15 hours of the day. So there's so much more wiggle room here, so much more room for maneuver. One of the really common ways that we measure activity is steps. Now, steps are a bit of a bugbear of mine because I think people have got a bit too obsessed with that number. But what is good about steps is it is a very measurable, objective data. So we can compare trends over time. But outside of step, if you are just doing more housework, cleaning the car, taking the stairs rather than the lift, all these little things can really add up. Because what we just want to promote is for you to be a physically active individual. And this will kind of take care of the calories by default. So just around at this point, I had another client who was smashing CrossFit like 6 times a week and he was getting fitter and he's getting stronger, but it just wasn't moving the needle in terms of his fat loss goal. And it was only once we targeted his day-to-day activity outside of exercise that he really started to notice movement on the scale. I think is just about everything I had to say. Yeah, so we went through food, we went through non-exercise activity, went through calorie deficit and the psychological and logistic side of exercise in relation to your day. So I guess just to summarize, purely from a fat loss perspective, exercise maybe isn't as impactful as you'd think. But I'm not trying to say that exercise is pointless. There's so many benefits outside of calories and fat loss. But if you are someone with a fat loss goal, what we do need to do is target your food choices and your general day-to-day activity. There's 1,000,001 methods to actually achieving this. And I guess a bit of a nudge towards my coaching, because on the PNC program, I can help you find strategies that work for you and your lifestyle, suiting your preferences. So if you want to know a little bit more about the PNC program, just head over to my Instagram, which is peak.nutrition.coaching, or send me an email from Sean@peaknutritioncoaching.com. Other than that, though, enjoy the rest of your weeks, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.